stunning. I'm going to do as I'm told by my boss. Thank you very much for honoring us with your presence today. I also wanted to say good morning in all the official languages. So where I get disturbed, please tell me. Goeiemorgen, dumelang, sanbonani. That's what you say, yebo, dumelang. Okay, let's start again. Goeiemorgen, dumelang, molweni, sanbonani, absheni, dimacharo. Did I leave anyone out?
Good morning.
I didn't say good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us this morning, and gentlemen. When we were thinking about doing this, initially we were organizing a webinar. We were like, let's do a webinar. You know, there isn't a lot of logistics to organize, and then we were like, guys, this is number one. We are not going to do her justice by, just sticking to it. So thank you, ma'am, for your team as well. Very professional, very friendly, communicative. This was so easy to put together. Siyabonga. Thanks for taking the time. We know weekends are very busy and people are, they have a lot of stuff they need to do. So Siyabonga, we don't take it very light. Siyabonga, very honored. I also didn't introduce myself. My name is Mbali. Peja Olema. A bit of a tongue twister. But all the syllables, Peja Olema. So we're born very patat young lady. Also, Awif, Deputy President. Unfortunately, our President couldn't be here. But she sends her regards, and she wants you guys to enjoy the event today. Observing protocol, EPSIP leadership is also here today. Kaya at the back, thank you sir for coming. Manager, thanks for coming. We appreciate the support, that continuous support that you always give us. And to the ladies, Siyabonga, maybe just a little story about why you guys are here. You guys were handpicked, by the way. All the events and all the webinars and everything that we've done to date as Awif and how we've shown up as Awif, you guys have been very instrumental, directly as well as indirectly. Sponsorships, panel members, we've always called on each and every one of you and you've always shown up. So this was a small treat and a token of our appreciation. So please enjoy. Thank you for your continual support, and we'll obviously keep knocking. Thank you very much. I also need to do a little bit snippet about Awif and what we also stand for as a subcommittee of EPSIP. We obviously believe in the mandate that EPSIP has. We have a women lens, so anything about leadership, mentorship, supporting women, supporting all initiatives and making sure that women thrive in every aspect. So skills development, programs, educational programs, something that you can put on your CV at the end of it. The theme, I think, for the last 3 to 5 years has always been about tangible growth and something that we can measure. So the goal is to, at least while we are in the committee, support programs and support and put women on, such that when we take a 5-year look or a 10-year look, and we look behind, we're able to say, this is person, this that person, and this is what we've done and this is what we've achieved. We also partner with institutes such as the Franklin Templeton program. We run that every year. We do the private equity program via GIBS. We've sent through 5 ladies this year. We'll be doing the same this year again. We sent 5 ladies last year, and we'll be doing the same again this year. It's around June, July. But obviously on our socials, please follow us on our LinkedIn page, our Instagram page to see what we do and what's hot. We also do IUDSA Certified Directorship. One of our sponsors gracefully offered that by the time the ladies finish this program, they'll take at least 1 or 2 inside the board, just so they can see how a board operates. So making it alive. So it's all of the things that I'm talking about today, and why you guys are very instrumental in terms of how we show up as Awif. So it's just a bit about what we do. I think the last one I left out is the CFA, partner with the CFA Institute. This year is a particular focus on ESG. We know it's very topical. Whatever sphere you work in whatever industry, ESG always comes up. So we're very excited about that one. So yeah, I think I've done my spiel. I'll shut up now because my friend knows if I'm given the mic and given the opportunity to talk forever. So Mamacha, please come up and do the opening for us so we can start. Mamacha is no stranger to Awif. She was the former Awif president. I wanted to say your normal 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, and I'm like, no, but your role is probably like 24/7. So thank you very much. And ladies, enjoy. Maybe admin, sorry. Toilets at the door to your right, gentlemen to your left. We'll also have lunch served just outside. If you want to take pictures afterwards, Gobodo will still stay on a bit to take pictures. And if you want to get books and get a copy signed, please do that. And also the numbers, we wanted to keep it very intimate. So there's no competition, there's no long queues. If you want to say hello, one of those creepy moments. So please feel free. And if anything, please can you also stay behind after the event, network, talk to one another, and just ask someone what I can do for you. It's a tip I learned somewhere, some conference I went to about networking. What can I do for you? This is my name, this is where I work, and what can I do for you? Thank you, ladies. Enjoy.
Thank you, Mbali. Good morning, ladies. As Mbali mentioned, everybody looks stunning, but I'm not surprised. This is Awif. Everybody always looks stunning and is overachievers and everything. Thank you for the invitation. I've missed Awif. As Mbali mentioned, I'm the ex-president of Awif. When I was in Awif, I remember it was so lovely. We had a team of people who always go out of their way to do everything on time, efficiently. So it was so sad to leave because the passion. I miss that. I've been trying to create a new role for me and all the ex-presidents, and clearly it hasn't been taken into account. But anyway, when Mukiwe called me to ask me to speak today, she didn't have to convince me much. I did not even have to write much down because I thought today I'll speak from the heart. Many moons ago, when I was a youngster in high school, I decided to become a chartered accountant, and I looked up. I remember, I remember asking my guidance teacher, talking about chartered accountants, and I remember finding out about Nonkululeko Gobodo. And when I was in university, I used to have my icons on my. So when people had all these, the fashionistas and whatever, I had my icons in the industry, and she was one of them. So thank you so much for always inspiring us and always taking the time to mentor and to spend time with us, and for always charting the way in areas that sometimes we don't even think of. So truly appreciate it. We appreciate your time. And then following that, long after that, I decided to become an entrepreneur. And some of the entrepreneurs I looked at was Gobodo. So, I've been following in your footsteps. I'm behind you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. And, as activists, I think we always aim to grow. But what I love about Gobodo is that it's multifaceted. It's not just about accounting, and we're talking about, she was saying she's a storyteller, family, the leadership academy that she's created now, the consulting firm that she's created now. So we look forward to really hearing more about Awakened. As I said, it's going to be my weekend read after this. But learning from you as well. Thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. And thank you everyone for taking the time to be here this morning. Looking forward to a wonderful chat. I would not have done this justice if I did not pass a message from my boss, the president of APSID. So Polo said that we must pass her regards. and apologize on her behalf that she could not attend. And she knows, oh well, you know that you are one of her greatest inspirations in life, and she is honored and glad that she have encountered you when she was young. So thank you so much. I think you've been an inspiration to all of us, and we look forward to continuous engagement with you as an industry, and for today as well, to hearing from you today. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mbali. Morning, ladies. My name is Nobukosi Kufa, and I have the honor and the privilege of interviewing Mam Nonku today. Mam Nonku, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. I thoroughly enjoyed reading your book. It was so insightful, so amazing. Sorry about that. I found it so insightful, the journey that you took the reader on. And you said that it actually started you embarking on this journey during COVID. So during COVID, we were all in a state of, we are not sure what's happening. People were throwing words around like new normal. Let's get used to the new normal. Others were learning how to bake banana bread. Others were doing their fitness and all sorts of things. And you decided it's time to write this book. You had been intending on writing it. So I just wanted to find out from you if you can just give us a brief overview of the book, and also just fill us in on what inspired you to write it.
Okay. Suppose COVID was a gift for me. I mean, I was at a place where, I had retired from the accounting profession for a couple of years, and I had started a leadership consultancy because I thought that, I'm so passionate about leadership, and I have this dream to change the world, and maybe I can use that vehicle. But corporate is corporate. They have their structure, and I was like slowly dying there. So when it was announced that we have to, go into lockdown for a month, we thought at that time, I mean, so naive. We thought it would really be a month. I was like, this is a gift. I would never give myself a month just for myself. When my kids were worried about me being alone, and they were, my son, the one, Ukaya from Cape Town, your colleague, no, Mama, you've got to spend in lockdown with us. And thank you. And when I refused, he said, okay, let's get my daughter and her husband must come and live with you. I was like, no, guys, no. I want to be alone. And that's why even the courage to write the book that I was so afraid to write came in. And one day I sat down and I said, I'm gonna face this fear, we're gonna write you today. And then you write 2 pages. They're like, wow, I wrote 2 pages. I'm a writer after all. But of course, the journey of writing a book is, as I found out, it cannot be rushed. Creativity comes in waves. When you have no inspiration, put it down, because you're just going to write rubbish. And then you take it up again, and you go to that chapter, you're like, no, this is rubbish. Scrap the whole chapter. Let's start from scratch. But when I listen to feedback from people who have read the book. First of all, we thought we couldn't write a book. Secondly, as I was saying, I'm a storyteller, and I tell my story simply. So I thought, you read these books and they are really creative and sophisticated. And when I would read my book, as I'm writing, I would be like, hey, this is so simple. I wish I could find, this gift of this sophistication. But the first thing people say is, it was such an easy read, and I couldn't put it down. I'm like, oh, wow. I felt like you were sitting there telling me this story. One journalist said, I feel like it's a series, I'm looking forward to the next, going back to the series. But most importantly is the impact it's having, how it's really touching lives, and how each person can find themselves in the book. It doesn't matter whether you are 80 or 15. Someone can, who's read my book can find themselves in the book, and the healing. Because I decided that I was going to be very open about mental brokenness and how my journey with that and how I found my own healing, and people now feel challenged to attend to those things that we've been sort of hiding under the table and pretending they are not there.
I must say that's what I really enjoyed, the authenticity in the book. It wasn't, look at me, I'm perfect, but it was really beautiful in that everything, including the good, the bad, the ugly, all just linked to form this beautiful story and a beautiful picture. So thank you for that in the book as well. Okay, so I just wanted to, and you mentioned that people couldn't say that they can't put the book down. It was my experience as well, as I was telling you just now, that even in my family, it was my daughter, my teenage daughter, my husband, and I really fighting over the book because one minute I look up and someone's taken my book. You had me at the introduction, Ma'am Nonko. The introduction just gripped me, and there's something that I jotted down here. It says that you, on your journey, you actually developed a mantra, and it says, I will not suffer for nothing, and I will not leave Egypt empty-handed. Can you just unpack that for us?
Yeah, I mean, with my journey of ups and downs, and the ups and the downs were big. The ups were big, the downs were also big, and that's how I developed this mantra. That obviously there's always a gem behind every challenge, and sometimes we're just so focused on the challenge and the problem, and we're trying to solve it. And so on, and you get so embroiled in it that you miss what it came to teach you, as Oprah would say. What has this come to teach you? Because I mean, the fact that you are going through that challenge is because you needed it. I mean, it's very hard for us to admit, but you needed it. And even like the first big challenge of falling pregnant at age 17. When you look back, it changed my life. We're celebrating Kaya's 45th birthday. Yes, I have a 45-year-old son. Kaya's 45th birthday just reached recently. And I was just saying, in my speech, this terrible thing that happened, that must have been such a big crisis for my parents, because you could see in their eyes how they were just worried about me and how they thought that, this child's life now is finished. But, being the kinds of parents that they were, they supported me through it all. And because of them, my life didn't end there, because I meet 69-year-olds today who read my book and say, who said same thing happened to them and their life did end. And now they are saying, I'm going to go and finish matric. So I'm saying, this terrible thing that happened literally changed my life. Because I grew up with a low self-esteem because I was quiet and my mother was just worried about this child. And at some point started verbalizing her fears about what's going to happen to me, because my older siblings were outgoing, and I suppose as parents you just expect that children will just be the same. We're not prepared to understand that they are different and how you parent them is completely different. And so my mother was a matriarch, a strong woman. So when these things were coming from her mouth, I believed them. So I believed that I wouldn't amount to much, I wouldn't succeed in life, and unfortunately, beliefs do shape who you are, and so that the salvation of falling pregnant at age 17, that helped me find my life, and because when I thought I was a failure, I was a failure. Even this issue of falling pregnant and so on. But when I found myself and I realized that I was not this thing that I believed all these years that I was, then I started to function according to what I believed about myself at that time. So I would have missed it if I had focused on just falling pregnant and it's the end of life.
Yeah, that's very powerful. You mentioned your parents just now. Let's talk about that, because I personally think your parents deserve a book on their own. Their story was so inspiring, just reading their story. How did having the parents that you have impact your attitude towards life in general, towards material wealth, for example, and towards success in general?
Yeah, they were really my role models. Because at that time in South Africa, you can just imagine that this sheer determination of, yes, there are barriers, yes, we are told that, we can only achieve this much or go this far. They always found ways of circumventing that and create their own lives. Working hard. When they were working, my mother was a nurse and my father was a teacher, but it never stopped there. There was always this hive of activity at home. My father running a brick-making business, my mother running a sewing, dressmaking business. And so, they had a shop in the rural areas outside Antata. So they were just busy people. That's why, at the end of the day, whenever we're talking about this balance, I was like, because I was so socialized to watch a mother who was, a professional and entrepreneur and all of that, there was no way that I could slow down and say I must, sacrifice for my children, because I didn't sacrifice for her. So I'm just crying there, having an absent mother. But the most important lesson that I learned from them, even during my own time of ups and downs, I would know that this is not the end, because I would watch them fall and rise again and rebuild a bigger, more beautiful life than the one before. So although you would be struggling, but you'd know that I'm going to find my way out of here and I'm going to create something new.
Yeah, I was really inspired by their resilience and the way they kept on bouncing back. Yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful part of the book. There's an inner voice that came to you at crucial times in your life. I think the first time, one time it was when you were 11, and another time in 95 when you needed guidance. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that inner voice and, you know, if it's still guiding you today?
It's one of those that I kept saying, should I say it? Even this one? Won't they judge me and say I'm crazy? But I was so blessed. Actually, before I talk about the inner voice, I was so blessed. I went on a book tour to the Eastern Cape, so I'm at Forte. This doctor, someone who is the panelist with me. So I was sitting, just waiting to be called, or there was a, load shedding, so they were trying to start the generator. So she says, and it was good that she did, I had to hear her as well. So she says, yo, you don't know how your book healed me. Because this inner voice thing happened when I was young too. And you talk about out-of-body experiences. I also had out-of-body experiences when I was young. I'm Catholic. All these years I was thinking, I'm crazy. And he says, I was praying early this year to God, saying, you have to explain this thing. Am I mad or what? So when I read your book, I was released. Oh, I'm not mad. I'm actually normal, even special. I suppose we all have this inner voice because we're all spirit beings. We're not just human beings. It's just that we always grow up in a culture where that is not, it's not talked about, because I don't think older people didn't have these voices. It's just that you sit with it, because also I sat with it at that time. When it happened to me when I was 11, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even, I suppose when you're young, you don't know what's going on. You know there are spiritual things, but you don't really understand them. But because the voice was so loving, I was not afraid, And because what it guided me was real, I was like, oh, that's what the voice said. And it happened exactly like that.
And so that voice was always right.
It was always.
And the timing was always perfect, which I thought, as I was reading, I'm like, this is God speaking.
Yes. So you just go to the Anglican church, God, there is a statue that you bow to. So you don't know anything like that. So this God is within us, and He is talking to us, and I think you've received that guidance. Because the voice is gentle, you might even think that it is your own voice at those crucial times when you receive this guidance. How did you get here? How did you make the kind of decisions and choices you made? It's because all that guidance is always there. It may not be like an audible voice that I had when I was young, but there's always grace, And the fact that even when I fell pregnant, I managed to find my way. How did I find my way? It's because there was guidance there, but obviously it's beautiful when you are saved from making a big mistake, for instance, by that voice.
Thank you, Ma'am Nonku. And one of the central themes in the book is definitely personal growth. On your journey during the wilderness years, you went on a deep dive in terms of researching personality, studying personality types and all that, which you found quite helpful within a work environment, business and corporate. I was just wondering while I was reading this book, could we apply it also in the family setting?
Very much so. I think this whole issue of we don't understand these things. I mean, even in corporate, when they started doing these psychometric tests, it was just a boring thing that we just want to get it over with, and you take those tests and file them away, and you never look at them again. Because we don't understand how important personality is. And we don't understand diversity of personality. That none of us has it all. You don't have it all. So we do need this collaboration among ourselves for us to achieve whatever we need to achieve, or create whatever we need to create. But because we don't understand this, all you see is yourself, and you don't even fully see yourself, in fact, because other people can actually see you better than you see yourself, because they have to live with you, you impact them every day, you impact them in terms of how you relate, how you lead, how you follow, even your leaders, and things like that. So this ignorance about our own personalities, that's why I said, when first I was criticized because I was quiet, and now I'm being criticized because I'm a strong personality. Like, no, I will never win. We never win. But I'm complaining that people don't understand me. But do I understand myself? Do I know myself? So before I can complain, let me go through this journey of understanding myself first. And I think that you think that, you know, I can just take one book and maybe understand myself, and as I found out and as I shared the book, no, you rediscover yourself all the time. I mean, someone was asking me, how do you reinvent? Always just being able to reinvent. It's because there is so much within this personality that you have to find an aspect of yourself, and also these experiences that you go through in life, they help us, they force you to discover another aspect of yourself that you do know, that resilient one. Because I was being interviewed by some students from UCT for their magazine, and she was saying, yo, I can't imagine going through the things you went through when you were young. How did you survive that? You see, I was able to find the resilient me at that time because of those experiences.
No, that's true. And then in the book there, because your book also is, for me has become a library, because there's so many references to other texts and books that you read that I think would be good for someone to explore, read if you're on a journey of self-awareness, a journey of just personal growth and development. So thank you for including all those books as well in there. Another theme that is in the book is racism and prejudice. It's a topic, and you touched on, when your time at SNG, you touched on the fact that it wasn't that easy to implement the African strategy. Why do you think that was so? Do you think colonialism, the legacy of colonialism, had something to do with it?
Yeah, I am grappling with this topic because I'm just wondering, how long are we going to allow this thing to just go on and continue, you know? And we've been, slavery was abolished a long time ago. Even in South Africa, we're talking about 30 years. In fact, my PR team is asking me to write an article around freedom. And I'm asking myself, I mean, what does freedom look like? Really, to be honest. Are we free? I mean, you are the middle class today, or higher class, I don't know where you fall, you may be falling in any of those. But are we free as the middle class? And it was actually quite a surprise, because we've been so isolated from the rest of the continent. I think we just assumed, because they'd been free long before us, that they've built SNGs of this world and will just, collaborate with similar sized practices. It was actually a shock to when we started now investigating, trying to find these partners, that right through the continent there were just only small practices of two-man practices who actually expected us to support them, grow, expand into new areas. That was a shock to me. But the biggest shock was when we had an APASA conference and people from NAPA, from the US came, and this SNG story was still new at the time. They were like, no, we have nothing like this in the US. I was like, well,
Wow.
yeah. I think it is colonialism. I think I'm sure we can, even during question time, talk more about this.
Talk about it, yes. And it's interesting as well that you saw that there were no sizable firms and in the rest of Africa. So who was holding the fort in all of Africa? The big four firms?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it was still the big four firms.
And then when we bring it inward to South Africa, you mentioned that law firms as well as engineering firms also got opportunities to become the SNGs of this world, but they didn't take that opportunity up. Why do you think that was so?
I mean, that's why you must really commend accountants, because this whole idea of my own thing, you've got to be willing to let the ego go for you to be able to build, because it's a big risk, right? And I talk to so many entrepreneurs who experience what I experienced. For instance, you had this two-man practice and then you fight, and after that they were like, no, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
So they were asking me, how did you have the courage to want to form partnerships again? Because I think because we were the most disadvantaged as accountants, we had just had this determination of, we studied as hard as everybody else, we deserve to achieve and succeed like everybody else in our own country. And we were willing to sacrifice, and it was not easy. Even when I was forming Gobodo Incorporated, because we had our small practices, all of us, it was very hard for people to, give up what they have, because in your small practice, it's just you, maybe you have a partner. It was hard to give that up for something that may not succeed in the first place. Even when we were forming SNG, it was the same thing. Now we're medium size, we're seen success, we're tasted success. What if the market is not ready for a big black accounting firm? What if we lose everything those decisions are not easy. And we'll never grow as Africans and as black people as long as we want our own little thing that I can control.
Yeah. And that, when we look back at it, you realize that what the black accountants did at that time, it was unique. Not many people could do that. You touched on ego. Can you just explain to us your definition of ego? How does one even, what is ego in terms of my makeup, and how would I silence it if I needed to silence my ego? Because it seems to be, ego seems to be tripping up a lot of people.
She's asking all the hard questions. Yeah, I mean, of course, we didn't know anything about ego and grew up in the church. for some of us, and we were just told about a sinful nature, and at some point I was like, no, there's something going on here. No, that is not just the sinful nature. I need to find what that is. Because how is it that I seem to be two people in one? You know, there's this side of me that is wise and strong and courageous and doing all these things. And there's this side of me that is weak and failing and making destructive decisions. Who am I then in these two personalities? And I suppose because it's only now that we're starting to understand how the brain works, as these neuroscientists are giving us more and more information. And you can imagine how this fearful ego for survival is trying to save you, I suppose, from a place of fear. And then with the childhood trauma and the wounding that you go through, it then just forms this hard cocoon that tries to protect you from, you know, the previous encounter, because that's all it can think of. That, this previous experience, you don't want to experience it again and end up creating that experience anyway. So for me, I believe that it's very much, maybe a small but very powerful part of our personality. And it's different for every one of us. Of course, if you didn't go through childhood trauma, you probably would not have the kind of ego that I had. But we still need to understand it. Because can you imagine where we are making decisions and choices from that fearful side of ourselves that it wants to be safe? As human beings, from that ego, we love to feel safe and secure. And we're willing to abandon ourselves, the real self, for that safety and security. So when I was making this decision of, hey, this thing is just not working. This marriage, no, it's not working. And I'm no longer willing to sacrifice. I mean, I was socialized to be a traditional wife, and I really was committed to follow what my tradition and culture said about the role of a wife, but it was just no longer working for me. So when you are trying to make this decision, now that part of you saying, but you can't afford to have your children grow up without a father, and you're going to be lonely. I was like, no, I'm lonely now, baby. This man is never here. So you learn to silence it from those that is silencing the ego. Because you are feeling the pinch, and it's coming with all these arguments that are based from fear, really. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not saying it was not hard for my children to deal with that broken family and all of that. Yeah. And it's very hard for me to watch them, heal from that. But I was no longer willing to sacrifice for them and do this marriage thing unhappy. So I'm just saying, we do need to understand it more. I can't even say I'm an expert myself. That's why I just shared, so that you can find your own solution, your own understanding. Because you cannot afford to be making decisions and choices from that part of yourself, not from that self that I made it. I did raise my children, and they are professionals today. Yeah,
and they turned out quite well.
Yes.
So still on this topic of prejudice and racism, you mentioned that your kids also went through racism in their schooling. And it's something that I thought when I was reading, sometimes we send kids to these private schools and we don't talk about it as parents in terms of what our children go through. How did you handle it? Because you had instances where, or you mentioned that one of your sons actually found himself as, well, when kids grow up, and I'm sure some mothers in the room can identify, that initially preschool age, everyone is playing together, and but as we go to high school, the black kids hang out by themselves and the white kids hang out by themselves. And your son found himself in that situation, and your daughter also experienced racism as well. How would you deal with it as a mom at that time? Because unfortunately it's still there.
No, the thing is, I mean, I suppose we're just professionals trying to, to build our careers. And that didn't open up, that's the sad thing. These are things that came up later on. Because I share how my son was, had to make a decision around legal articles, and he was just determined not to go to the big 5 law firms. And I just couldn't understand this, that you need proper training. But he was not open. And he opened and I said, okay, it's your choices, then let me help you. And a friend of mine who was running a legal practice then took him in. So he shared later on that, Mom, at school I was just a number. There is no way I was going to allow myself to go into a big law firm and be a number again. And that's when this had, now then she started to share the story that I shared in the book. You have to read the book to get the full story. But I mean, what I don't share in the book is how my daughter was going through therapy. And I mean, you're going through therapy because, you went through this broken family and love relationships were a mess and so on, and so on. And then the therapist, she wants to focus on these things that she thinks are a big thing. And the therapist says, tell me about how it felt when you were at school. Yeah, this story is gonna break you. I couldn't even share it in the book. She says, I was like, huh? And then she went back. And then she realized how, because you are not seen or heard in these environments, she used to have this fantasy of if I would just get hurt, not too hurt, but there's blood and everything, then at least people would notice me and see me. And she then realized how deep that wound was, that the therapist was actually right. It's a really deep wound. So, guys, don't make the mistake that we have made, at least we are young. You've got to walk this journey with your kids. We didn't know that they were going through things like that, so that you support them through these environments. And because then, I mean, you can imagine, as an adult, you're trying to deal with a lot of things, and there's another childhood trauma, deep wound that my kids were not aware of.
Yeah, that is so heartbreaking. My next question is that as I was reading, I realized Awakened is actually not just a book. Awakened Global, it's a social initiative. It addresses things like this, like racism, prejudice. Can you tell us more about it and how people can get involved?
Yeah. Awakened is not an organization, it's just my own personal structure. But it's really a movement. I mean, the last thing I want is to start an organization, because if you want to destroy anything, start an organization. Because this one has their own opinion, and that one has their own opinion, and the next thing, you are not even achieving the goal. And for me, I'm tired of complaining about these things and wondering when will they ever end, you know? I'm just saying, obviously the people who are feeling the pinch should be doing something about changing the situation for real. I mean, I was asking whether, as this middle class, are we really free? When there's this stereotype of women and black person in corporate South Africa that were expected to fit in. And because of this need for us for safety and security, unconsciously we find ourselves abandoning ourselves to fit in. Because, you know, for you to share in the economic pie, for you to sit at this table, you have to fit into this box, and you are dying slowly. And I'm saying, how then can people who are conditioned to feel they're inferior, who, you know, one said, are treated like unwelcome visitors in these spaces, how can they create this new freedom where we can start baking our own cakes? And I'm not saying bake this cake outside. I'm saying where you are, once you find who you truly are, you'll start to bake your own cake. And I'm very proud of Kaya, who, because he was raised by me, within his own space, he knows who he is. He knows that these are black people's pensions. This is not white capital, this is black capital. I owe nothing to nobody. I am a leader here. I'm going to lead the way I see fit, promote the people I want to promote, support black business that I want to promote, of course doing it properly. Yeah. Because if I did spaces and we're apologetic, because we have to fit in, we can't afford to upset the apple cart, then when are we going to build this new Mzansi that we all dream of, you know? So I'm saying, okay, what happened. We cannot change that, but we can change now, you know? But if we collaborate now and participate in this superior, inferior scenario, because those who are superior, they need someone to be inferior, and they need to continue to be inferior, because when you talk about social inequality generally, there must be people at the bottom, for others to climb. So, you know, those in power, they always want some people to be at the bottom. They have to convince you that you are at the bottom, kind of thing, and you must stay there, and you will rise according to our own terms, you know. We'll let you rise a little bit and just give you a little piece of the pie and all of that. Whereas, you know, we can bake these pies right there, and others like myself will go and bake the pies outside so that we can see real freedom and real economic transformation.
Powerful. Yeah. Driving here, how did it feel? Because you once lived in Windwood, didn't you?
Up the road.
Now you are here being interviewed. I think you've come full circle.
Yes. In fact, this is what I was saying when I got this appointment. What as Chancellor, I was like, yo, this is full circle. Once a student and now coming back as Chancellor. Wow, this is really full circle. Yeah, definitely full circle. I mean, the Nonkululeko of those days in apartheid South Africa didn't even dream of this world.
Wow.
Couldn't even dream.
Sure. Yes, you can check. When I was driving here, I thought of a part that Kaya wrote in your book about he enjoyed people stopping him and asking him if he was a child of a domestic worker, because they lived here in Windwood and everybody assumed that. And he said he enjoyed saying, no, my mom owns the house. So it really was such a surreal moment. And I guess it's, I don't know if there are coincidences in life that this event was held here. I think at this point we can hand over for Q&A session. Thank you so much.
Voice every time I address you. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your journey with us. Going to buy the book. Books are also sold outside, and there will be a book signing after the Q&A. So at this point, we'll take a few questions. Anyone, just raise your hand, and then there's a roving mic that will go. Okay, see your hand here, there's another.
Thank you, Ma. Such a lovely story, and I'm actually looking forward to reading the book. You know, remind me of this quote. It says that shame dies when stories are told in safe spaces, and it just sounds like you've shared real stories that have truly awakened you. And I've got two questions. The first one is just on this title, Awakened. And it goes back to, I was thinking about Viola Davis. She's also got an autobiography called Finding Me. And then Michelle Obama has an autobiography called Becoming. And it's all about introspection, you know? Finding your inner self, your inner voice, before you can actually lead. We look at male authors, use Will Smith, it's Will. And then Pete Don, When They Fired Me. Teto is betting on the darkie. So when it comes just to women professionals or rather women leaders, it's all about first that introspection, becoming the best version of yourself, understanding you, becoming confident in your skin before you can lead. And that first question is about that discovery. How important was that discovery for you to find your voice? And the second question is related to your voice, in that, you know, you became the first Black CA. And there's a lot of pressure in becoming the first. You know, sitting at the table, you're the first. A lot of people expect you to bring others to the table as well. It's just this pressure. And often, with that pressure, there's this power as well. And, you know, a lot of people say that when you have power, you must use it. So you have to bring mentors to the table as well. You also need to speak up when there's racist remarks like Tresemme and the Clicks group. You spoke up and you were using your power. And I just wanted to know just that balance. You know, how did you find that balance in that pressure to lead and use your power to impact change, as well as just wanting to be yourself and stepping away from the light and using that month to write a book or using some time for yourself or your family? How did you find that balance in that? Those are my two questions.
During my, you know, in my years of you know, up and down, it was always like an awakening. And for me, it was an awakening to, not to find the old person, the old self, but to find a new self. And I then realized also that from that girl who walked into, you know, her first job, and the first day, your first encounter with the manager, he says, "What is your name?" Nonkululeko. Oh, that is too hard. Yo, I'm just gonna call you Mary. 19 years old, I'm like, you will do no such thing. You will do no such thing. You will write my name down. You will practice it and say it to the full. Wow. I will not even allow you to shorten my name. And how I stood up to these two white bullies who were managers of this, my father's business at the time. And then being taught bookkeeping and catching on this thing so quickly. I'm like, oh, I'm not this thing that my mother said that I am. I'm actually smart, I'm strong, I'm able to stand up to these bullies. And the clarity came of what I wanted to do with my life. And then when you look at all of these things, you realize that the real you, the real person is always there. Like, you know, we started this day with a cloudy day, but now it's sunny. The bright blue sky is there, whether we are covered by clouds of limiting beliefs or self-doubt. Those moments when you doubt yourself, please, Madonna, no. The real you is always there. Because it was just amazing to hear how I would literally like this. I was shy and didn't know who I was. And literally, that moment when that manager said, Mary, I'm like, you do no such thing. Where was that Nonkululeko? She was there all along. So you do have to find that true self. You can't allow the ego to just define who you are. You can't allow race to define who you are or gender to define who you are, because we are all just talented and creative, and you want to bring your true self, you know. And I've always been able to find that, because I allowed people to define who I am. I was then so conscious of never allowing anyone else to define who I am. And so when you know, people ask, okay, you're saying we abandon ourselves, and it's true. How do we then bring this true self without being prejudiced against and ostracized and all of that, and lose out on opportunities? And I always say that when you find your true self, you function from your authentic self and your authentic power, and everybody will always respect that, you know. But when you're protesting and you have to see me and you're complaining and you're making so much noise, no one's gonna listen to you when you're doing that. But when you do it from that authentic place, and I'm gonna share another story in the book of, I'm appointed as the chief audit, lead audit on this audit of a bank. And now I want to go and start this job, and this big Afrikaner bank manager. Just as I'm being introduced, and this is Nonkululeko from Cape Town to the, go away. First day, I go away. Second day, that's the same thing. Third day, I have a plan now. I'm like, I'm not going to the dark South Gate to come and sort this thing out, and I sorted out myself. So I have a plan. I don't announce myself. I stand next to the door. And when the last client leaves, I walk in, I close the door, I sit down, and he says the same thing. Go away. And I sit down and I say, no, you will see me. I have a job to do. I need you to go and introduce me to the people I need to deal with. 26 years old, the way I said it, that big Afrikaans man, because I knew who I was. I'm the lead auditor here. I'm not some young black. This is apartheid South Africa. Eh? I'm not some young black woman. I'm the lead auditor. The way I said it. So they know when you function from that authentic self, promise you, they will listen to you, they will respect you when you don't protest and complain and shout to be heard or seen. And then the second question, how do I balance this power? I mean, you have to be wise as well. And because you're still, dealing with human beings who are always challenged by strong, powerful black women. And as much as even today, people know that you are the CEO and the leader to EXCO, not the board. I'm a board member here. You are not my boss. I made that very clear, very quickly. But at the same time, I will support you, as a CEO, just like I first supported that guy from Clicks, and I don't want to talk about Clicks. I will support you when you need support, because black women were wounded by that thing. They needed to listen to someone who looks like them. So, you always to be wise to balance these things and know that there are times not to say anything. There are times like that. But the wise thing here is not to say anything. As you grow up, you just find that balance.
Necessary. I've got a question, and really this is around, I caught you speaking about the journey your kids went through. and you mentioned how, as you walked towards your freedom, they were walking towards something else. And I think immediately when you kind of spoke about the fight, you were going through in your marriage, and the fact that you were tired and you wanted to get out, you were potentially going into another fight, but so were your kids as well. And I don't know, in my mind I just kind of pictured this, there's a saying, as young people like to say, life will go. I'm not sure what go is in English, but going, life is going. And I was just like, go on this side and then go on that side. And I thought about how you mentioned that your daughter, didn't necessarily feel safe. And so in that environment, in that environment, she wanted and longed to do certain things. And I thought about that, and I do see other young people, is that us as young people always feel that there's a burden in sharing our struggles with parents. We look at you guys and we don't want you to carry that. And the reason why we hold it in is because we know you had a rough life and we just don't want to add to that. But when you speak about it now, and it's far, but I can see your face, you don't talk about it with shame. When you talk about how your daughter went through that and your kids also went through suffering, and I was just hoping that maybe you could share that with us to relieve that burden from us and what it meant for them to share what they went through. Thank you.
Because I had gone through my own journey of healing, I took responsibility for the pain and suffering that my kids went through. I also started with the same denial, like when they would confront me, my youngest son, but how, remember Mama, when you were never there, you used to leave us with Umakulu, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you are 20, why are we talking about this? Preschool. I don't even think you attended my preschool graduation. Wow. Really? I mean, you are 20, why are we talking about preschool? But at some point, you stop the denial, right? And we went through that healing journey with the kids. And it was not easy in the beginning. It's not like from day one they opened up, but you just persist and persevere and understand that you have to put yourself in their own shoes. I remember when my son was, failed second year. I can't say that in the book. Please don't tell him I said it. Every course in second year, I'm like, why isn't he born again? But I had to acknowledge that he had a breakdown at that point, because then he acknowledged that growing up without a father was actually painful. And then I had to support him through that, through therapy and things like that. So he decides that, I used to say we had a personality clash. Mama, you don't understand what happens, Rez, or I think he was also staying in a flat. I want to come home. So the first time he said this, after this breakdown, I was like, no, you are going back, you have to go and face your demons. Because if you run away from your demons, they will always chase you. And that, so he repeated second day and passed. And then he was allowed to come home. So now he comes home, I'm like, this personality clash, you are fighting all the time. Then I decided, I'm going to be, because as an adult, you must say what I say, and I'm the boss here, I'm the mother here. So I just humbled myself, and I said to myself, I'm the one who's going to change and understand my son and be patient with him. Within 3 months, our relationship changed like this. I mean, we've never fought again to this day. So sometimes as parents, we don't realize the power of putting yourself in your children's shoes. As much as, because my thing was like, I was a single mother. How did you expect me to do all of this, provide for you, build a career, and give you the kind of life you've enjoyed? and still attend every soccer match and be there and all of that, you know. But they were hurt. And I had to acknowledge that they were hurt. And let's go through this journey of healing together. And now, you know, we are a beautiful family that is healed and we get on well with one another. So I feel sorry for my I remember when I released I don't know whether you saw my famous video on sex. So I sent it to my contemporaries. I was just shocked by these mothers who were like, yo, Nonkululeko, I still can't talk to my daughter about sex. Can you come and talk about it in my, you know, with me and my daughter? I'm like, no. That's why I sent out the video. So that you get the courage. She said, no, I just sent the video to the daughter. I can't talk to her. I'm like, when are you going to start talking to your kids? They yearn to talk about how they felt about, you know, being raised by you guys. They yearn to hear about these things. You have to talk about them, with them. But even today, Shem, you know, I was at another book thing, a small intimate one. I mean, those young professionals there, they were still saying, I still can't talk to my mom about how I felt, about how she treated me, and so on and so forth. But we have to heal this brokenness, guys. And our grandchildren have to be spared. Our grandchildren cannot go through this brokenness.
Names and pictures, and so I promise you still have a chance on one-on-one that program, unfortunately. So one last question from the floor again.
So my name is Nonkululeko and I'm studying at the University of Johannesburg. So you spoke about going through the healing journey with your children, and there's this concept about healing your inner child, and that by part of healing your inner child is by forgiving your parents for things that they did do or they didn't do. So my question to you is, did you go through that healing journey with your own mother and your own parents, or is there still that part of you that still holds a bit of resentment for the things that they said to you, and not only like your parents, but just people around you? Do you still hold that resentment inside, or have you let go of it? And if you let go of it, how did you let go?
No, I mean, you can have it signed later. You know that, when I was listening to and she was just talking about this thing, because he has read my book also, so I was just so happy that he's bold to talk about the childhood trauma and the healing the inner child in that book. No, you just have to forgive others and forgive yourself. Forgiveness is a big part of this journey. I had to forgive my mother and truly forgive her. And by the time, you know, she died, I had already started my healing journey. Because remember, you can never be released without forgiveness. You know, and the most difficult to forgive is yourself, because you've made mistakes also. So you've got to find that place of forgiveness, forgiving others, and forgiving yourself. And forgiveness, it doesn't mean, it's a journey also. It doesn't mean you decide today that I'm going to forgive and forgive. Understand that when you feel angry again, it's a reminder that I still have not fully forgiven, and take that opportunity to dig into which area have I not forgiven, and forgive that part as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. So much. Now we are moving to a close. NEC Leadership Siyabonga, thanks for your presence, thanks for your support. Ladies, thank you very much for attending today. Tomorrow we're talking about appreciation, although I know it's big, né? But thank you so much for always opening doors for us, and always allowing us a seat at the table in your organizations and in your spaces. We thank you. Mama, thank you very much. Mameja, please can you present the gift to Mama?
Thank you. Thank you so much. If I knew your praise name, I would have said it proudly right
now. A few nuggets in terms of what I took today. What you believe about yourself shapes you, whether you like it or not. So be careful of what you believe about yourself. Wamkhulu Mama, when she was saying everything, what she was saying about you, it goes to the power of words and how we need to use our words to build and to empower. I always call it, you know, that journey of self-actualization, I always call it a God moment. And we go through it in every aspect of our lives. Nati, when you finally are, you know, ready to deal. My mom always says, my mom in love, always says, when the student is ready to learn, the teacher arrives. The power of socialization, the fact that we can see each other in those spaces. My boss is Unana Piri, and whenever I see her, I'm like, yes, you know, just the power of seeing yourself through someone, very important. Siyabonga Mama for being there for us as well. At some stage I wanted to be a chartered accountant and I was like, nah, it's okay. I really want to suffer in life and I chose to be an engineer. So thank you. And lessons learned from Mom and Dad. You know, they're not perfect. I also learned a lot through my mom and my dad. And I also learned to be kind to what they were going through. And what Mama said about showing up, you don't get the same parent. So the parents I had versus the parent my sister, our last born, I'm like, clearly I was born at the wrong time. People, so you guys can be like this. So is she really going to that party? You know, I still have a curfew. And I need to be home by 6 p.m. If I'm going to have dinner with my friends, my mom will call me at 8 on some, are you coming back today or what? I'm a mom myself, what are you talking about? Anyway, ego, silencing the ego, fear-based arguments, whenever those things show up, learn to silence them. And the social movement, I don't want my team to kill me. On Instagram, ladies, please check out your phones. The handle is awakened_global. On Facebook, Awakened Global, please follow. And on LinkedIn, Awakened Global. Hashtag as well, Awakened Global. Hashtag Awif. Hashtag book review. Hashtag Gobodo. And lastly, I guess the power of showing up as your authentic self. There's so much power in that. Like I feel like we don't recognize it enough. But the moment you are your true self, you just get treated differently. So let's not shy away from presenting as ourselves, ladies. I think there's just so much power we have internally and in terms of how we also show up. You know, when you show up as your authentic self, you already just demand so much respect from people. And don't run away from your demons. I wrote it in caps. They will always chase you. I'm very good at running. Mama, thank you for your work, your impact, movement, and parental advice. I took so much today. There's lots of conversations I'm scared of having, but today I'm going to venture and at least try and show up for my little ones. Ladies, siyabonga futhi, our Awif committee, thank you very much. EPSIP, thank you very much. One thing I need to mention about the Awif ladies is that with EPSIP work, it's really a work of passion. You don't get paid for it. It's really work that you do because you believe in the vision. So thank you so much, guys, for your time and your effort and organizing this beautiful day. When we go out for lunch, please stick around, have tea, have coffee, buy the book. Hashtag when you post on social media, but also speak to someone new today. Okay? Let's not speak to someone new and ask them, how am I showing up? How did I show up today? And also, what can I do for you? Ladies, siyabonga, thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day.